Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Sorry for the delay on videos. I've just been really busy working basically 3 full-time jobs. So it's been kind of rough to get these videos out. So just bear with me. I'll get them out slowly but surely. And today's video is only going to be about 30 minutes. So I apologize for the short length content, but we're going to get right into it now. So the last video, if you haven't watched the previous videos, go get them a watch as we go over a lot of networking stuff using Windsock. So we don't use Boost or any third-party libraries for any of this stuff. What we're going to do today is we are going to create a window and initialize Direct3D11 because this is what we're going to use as our API to render. So for the window, we only need one window. Okay, so we could do this in like the standard C way where we just have a window procedure and then a handle to the window kind of globally. But I think instead I am going to make a module called window. This way, if I ever decide to add extra windows, we can do that fairly easily. So we're going to add a module. We're going to do remote desk.window ixx. And I don't remember, I think we were, yeah. I think we were using a precompiled header. It's been a couple weeks since I've messed with any of this. So we're going to start with, of course, our namespace. Let me see, what was I using? Yep, okay, so I was using the camel case stuff. So mhandle. I've been writing in other languages again, so just forgive me if I don't do things the optimal way, but I will try to correct them as I'm doing it in the video. Window, and the invalid value is null pointer. So now that we have a handle to the window, we also need a window class. So each window, we're going to have some protected methods here. We want a way to get our window class. I don't know why it's lagging like this. And we're just going to make this virtual, right? I'm thinking constant and then window class ex. And again, we're going to use the wide and the ANSI versions of these. I understand that we could define Unicode here, but if for any reason this project gets pulled in the future and multi-byte is not set or Unicode is not set, we don't want it to default to ANSI, specifically because we're messing with operating system stuff. So we need to make sure that we stick with wide strings for this. And then we're simply just going to return it after we set a couple of variables. So the first one is going to be get module handle w, pass in null pointer to get the current module. We are going to pass in a class name. Oh, that's the one thing we are not going to do. So we need size, it's going to be the size of WCEX. And we will need a pointer to our function. So we're just going to call this master window procedure, like this. And so we'll create that down here. Static L result callback master window proc. And this will allow us to basically funnel in any of the information from this window, from an instantiated object of window, and we will be able to call the window procedure function. So we'll just make this virtual. And before we get into any more detail here, I understand perfectly well that there's going to be some arguments made against using virtual, but for this application, it's going to be completely fine to use virtual. This is probably going to be the only location where virtual is going to be used. So I'm not too worried about performance issues here. Plus, it makes sense, right? Because if we need to create a specific type of window, it's going to be important that we have this class as like some base code so we can reuse the code and we get proper inheritance. And the virtual here for the window procedure, I don't want to have to pass in function pointers, and also, we want some sort of base functionality, so we can just return the bases or windows window procedure. And this will basically just return the default window procedure. That's exactly what this one here will do. So I'm going to create another one called an initializer, like this, and set this to null pointer. And again, we're using C++20, so we get inline static. Okay? So that right there is solved. And then all we need to do here is we're going to have a bool create. I think I'll make it void, just throw an exception. And create's going to take in some parameters. First thing is going to be obviously the width, the height, its x, and its y. And I'm going to make some I'm just going to format this out a little bit. And so I'm going to actually set each of these to some proper defaults. 800 by 600, the x, I'm going to use a -1. And actually, I think what I'll do is I'll just specify 0. We don't need anything else. So now you could just simply call create and the defaults just work. So we are going to first come here. We're going to get our window class. So window class exw. And we'll just simply call this get, or what is it, window class. I'm going to change this to get window class. All right, and now that we have the window class, we simply do if not, register class exw, and we can just make this const. Now we can simply throw an exception, but if you create two instances of a class, right, one of the main reasons that it can fail is because the window class already exists. So if we'll look up register class exw, or just register class ex, it doesn't really matter the function. So the return value, the application tells the system window expects, the application requests the system, pass text parameters and messages Unicode. Oh, that's not the return. If the function fails, the return value is 0 to get extended error information called getLastError. So we need to call this. I need to get. I wish it would just tell me the proper errors. I know there's something for a class already exists or something like that. So we'll try to find it here. If getLastError equals error class already exists. And then what we'll do is we'll simply do does not. Because the class already exists, it's not really an error, right? It's just saying that you can't register a class that's already registered. So in our case, we could simply say if it's not. So if the last error is not that the class already exists, we could simply throw for now, I'm going to do a system error. get last error, and system category. And I gotta remember to use these braces. All right, so that's going to be the registering of the class. Okay, so now we can do style EX. Class name is going to be WCX LPZ class name. The window name, ooh, I forgot about that. So we can actually have a Yep, okay, so now we could just do title.cstring. The style X, Y, with height. We're not going to deal with parent-child relationships or menus. If we want them, we'll have to draw them ourselves. And we'll just pass in null pointer. Okay, and so this, now we'll simply check if mHandle equals null pointer. We could throw a runtime error, failed to create window. I don't know why I keep doing that. I guess it really doesn't matter which one of these I use, but I'm just going to stick with this. Okay, so this is now check and throw an error if for some reason it doesn't happen. And the last thing I need to do is I need to set my static initializer to this. And what this will do is basically inside the window procedure, the very first thing that will be called will basically be so window pointer window equals reinterpret cast window pointer get window long pointer W. This is going to be long, I apologize. And get window long pointer user data. Now we have a actual window. What we need to do now is check if not window. What we need to do is we need to set window equal to s initializer. And then we can simply go, window equals s initializer, and then set window long pointer W. And then we're going to set the user data. Doing a lot of pointer stuff here. Now, this is one of the instances it may be easier to write this in C, just because you don't have to worry about reinterpret casts and stuff. But I do like the plain language here. It's clear as day what's going on. I'm reinterpreting the window pointer as a long pointer. So now we now have it. So if it's not, then we're going to set this. Now, we're also just going to do if s initializer is null pointer, we're going to simply return default window procedure. As it's not a good idea to throw exceptions in this. So I'm just going to do a no except here. No, I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so now we have a window. And what we're going to do now is we actually do not have to set this here. We can ignore this, and we could do if message wmnc create, so the non-client area, which will come first, then window mHandle equals handle window. If message equals wmnc destroy, window mHandle equals handle no pointer. So we'll just basically get rid of it, and then I'll just simply do an else if here. So that takes care of that. Now we don't actually want to do this here. Instead, we're going to return the result like this. And we don't want a handle to the window. So now that's one less argument to have to deal with. So the only problem is maybe NC create is happening first, so we'll check that, and then this happens after, then we'll check this, and then we can simply return our result. So this looks about as clean as I can make this. And I know this is a lot of bloat compared to the C version, but this will allow us to basically use polymorphism with windows. And we're not even going to worry about, because the only thing that we're doing here is basically if the static initializer is not set, we're just simply returning the default window procedure. Otherwise, we're setting the window and then setting it here. And then if the message is basically when the window is first created by the operating system, we need to set the Windows handle. We process the message, and then if the message is that it's being destroyed by the operating system, we simply null out the handle and return the result. Now, this is all that we need to do. So, create is there. Okay, so now we can create it. The regular window procedure is just going to be default window procedure W. All right, and then the only thing that has to be set by the base class is going to be the window class name. So now we're going to have an actual window. And actually, I think I'm just going to do show and hide. I don't need anything more sophisticated than this. Void minimize, void restore, void maximize. And we'll simply ignore this as well. And a simple call to update window. So now again, we could check if you call show before the window gets created, which it really shouldn't be able to be created at this point. But because there's defaults here, this will work. So, yeah, I'm thinking we delete copy. And now we can work on our basic one. So we can come over here. We'll create a protected function called destroy. And I'm thinking that that right there will handle it. So we could simply say if mHandle, then destroy it, and then set mHandle to null pointer. Nope, that's being handled in the window procedure, so we don't even have to worry about that. So if mHandle this destroy. Ooh, but now we get into the weird stuff that's about to happen. So if we swap with Windows, right, there's a possibility that the window procedure is not handling everything correctly. So I think what we do need to do, what does destroy window actually do? Destroys the specified window. The function sends destroy and NC destroy messages to the window to deactivate it and remove the keyboard focus from it. The function also destroys the Windows menu, flushes the thread message queue, destroys timers, removes clipboard ownership, and breaks the clipboard viewer chain if the window is at the top of the viewer chain. If the specified window is a parent or owner window, destroy window automatically destroys the associated child or owned windows when it destroys the parent or owner window. The function first destroys child or owned windows and then destroys the parent window. So this says the function, this actually will send the WM destroy and WMNC destroy messages. So actually, I think this is perfectly fine. So now we could set mHandle to std exchange mHandle and simply return pointer this. And I think this is it. Yep, this right here looks right. So we're just gonna copy all of these, and then here we can change the show mechanism or the command. Okay, so this should allow us to maximize, minimize, and all this kind of stuff with simple commands. And then I'm going to have a bool is minimized I think it's is iconic. And is maximized. And is zoomed. Yeah. Okay, so now we just have some basic functionality, some basic things we can do with an actual window. So it is important that the constructor of all windows calls this create method here, inside of the constructor. The constructor of the class that you're actually using to create it. So one thing we can do, actually, is we can default our constructor into the protected class. And this way, the Windows constructor, the only way you can create a window is if it is inherited from. So this is another easy way to do this. Everything looks good now. So I guess now let's create our first real window. In this case, we're just going to call it the client window. So remote desk. We'll call this main window. How do we want to do the windowing stuff? I'm thinking we do like a client and an admin window. But you need a window to start up. So I'm going to call this selection window. Like this. So remote desk dot selection window. If I can spell. And include the precompile header. namespace remote desk. And it will be a public window. Why is this giving me... Oh, I need to import it. So import window. And it's complaining, is this not exported? There we go. And so now here we can just simply call this create, and here we can just do window. But we don't need to because it'll be called automatically. And in here we just call this create, and this should, why is it doing that? This should work perfectly fine. And now we just need a private and this will be my my default selection. So I'm really curious as to why I'm getting that error. And we also want a window class EX. Get window class. And I'm going to specify override here. And I need to do this here also. Auto WCEX equals we'll just call that get window class, and then we'll do and now we can override specific properties. I don't know why this is bickering the way it is. But I'm going to say that this is fine for now. And we're going to come back out here to the WinMain. And we're going to get rid of all of this. And I'm going to actually import the selection window. And I will simply has no member selection window, but that's not true. Oh, that's right. It's an IntelliSense thing, isn't it? Yeah. I really don't know why it's bickering, but I'm going to try running it and just see what happens. So now we have this. And to do a simple test, translate, which isn't necessary because I'm just testing, but all right, so now let's see what build errors we actually get. Because to me, it looks like everything's compiling fine. Element 1 to dword to int. It does take... Oh, no, it doesn't. Why is it doing that? Okay. There it goes. Now we're good. Get window class. It's complaining about that. Because it's got to be const. There you go. So now everything should work just fine. We should get a window, but you're not going to see it. So this is the first problem that we see. Everything's running. It's running in the background. It's not stopped. It's just not showing itself. So we can come here. We can do this show. And then we'll be able to see it. We'll be able to move it around. All that good stuff. But then whenever we close the window, the application doesn't exit. And this is because we need to handle what happens when the window gets destroyed. So we'll switch on the message. On the default, we'll simply return window procedure. And then a general thing is we simply return a result 0 whenever we handle a message. So here we're just going to simply post a quit message of 0. So now whenever we exit the application, whenever we close the window, the application exits. But there's still a problem. We're still not returning this error code. So let's say I put 10 there. This should, in theory, return 10 when I close, but you can see it returns 0. And the way that we get this to work correctly is we actually need to static cast the, so we can return message.wparam and just static cast it to an int. And everything works. So now it exited with code 10. So now we have the basic mechanism in place for our window. We'll just put exit success there. Whenever this window gets destroyed, right, what we actually want to happen is we actually want to spawn the corresponding window. So we'll have to handle input and stuff like that, but we'll do that later. For now, I just kind of want a basic window framework up, and this is exactly how it is done. So now we can specify exactly what goes here inside of the create. We can create its different widths and heights, its position, its style. Everything can be changed right here in this one function call, and it's very easy to do. And as you can see, the only thing we've had to change was the class name, but there's also there's a couple more tiny bugs, so we'll go over those real quick. The first one is whenever I resize, notice this is black. This is because we didn't set the background brush, but that's not going to be necessary for us because we're actually going to render to this background using Direct3D, so I'm not even worried about that. However, this is concerning. If you look at the cursor, right, the cursor is this sizing thing, the northeast sizing cursor. But I don't want it to actually be that. What I want it to be is, as you can see, if we come into here and then we come into the main client area, the client window doesn't have a cursor, so it is set to whatever the last cursor is. So the easiest way to fix this, unless you want to write like 20 lines of code, is to just set the cursor. Low cursor W. It's a null pointer because we're not referring to an instant of an application or a module. But with the module name, we can do make int resource W IDC underscore arrow. You'll notice this is already make int resource, but it's not W. It's whatever the regular one is, 32512. And this will get us our cursor. And done. Now, as you can see, we can come out here and we come back. It's the regular cursor. So that solves our window dilemma. So I'm thinking we actually may want to move this into the base window, and because this is going to be used by virtually all of them. And again, we're not going to worry about refreshing the background or anything like that. And then here's in the override is also where you would set your icon. So we have a window up. We have a basic way to make this work. So here we're posting a quit message. Now what happens if we were to break out into another loop, right? So now that we have a quit message, we can get the W param like this. If result equals 0, Then what we can do is we can physically set the result again, or we can create another window. So we'll just create another selection window and run it again, and then set the result to static cast int message.wparam. And this will allow us to basically run one window, get confirmation, see what happens, and then boom. Now, as you can see, the quit message happened one time. It got that message. It processed it. Now that we're doing this again, we have a second window. We close it. The application actually closes. So this way, when we create one window, we're actually going to have to like do two loops basically. So the first one will be basically a dialogue. And we can use it to basically set up, are you the client? Are you the server? In the selection window, I don't want it to be able to be resized, but we're going to go over all of this stuff coming up in the next couple of videos. But right now, I think I want to do a very basic direct 3D initialization. So I'm just going to, I put all this in networking, didn't I? I sure did. So what if I just were to create a new filter and call this Win32? Or what if I called this views? I think that'd be so we'll call this views. We'll come back here to networking. We'll take window and selection window, and we'll move those into views like that. So networking is by itself. And now I can have I'm going to create a new filter called graphics, and I'm going to add a new module. And here I'm going to do remote desk.d3d11. And I don't really know what else to call it, but I can call it D3D11 context. Render context. And this way, if I decide to port this to OpenGL or something, we can actually create a base class for those two things and then use them. Or we can use the strategy pattern, however we wanted to do this. I think it's just a good idea to go ahead and do Direct3D 11 render context. Also, if we decided to do Direct3D 11.1 or 0.2 or Direct3D 12, we can create different render contexts for that. Okay, so now this is all done. So we can call this D3D 11 render context. And again, same thing you've seen before. We'll create a D3D11 render context. And I think we're going to use just plain Direct3D11, but we also need our, so I'm glad I didn't do that yet. So I'm going to include D3D11, and I'm also going to include DXGI1_5. And I want to include, what is the other thing? D2D1_1.h. Okay, so this all looks good. I don't think we need any. Oh, yes, we do. We're missing one very important thing. WRL client. And this will allow us to basically use the COM pointer class. And that's going to be kind of important because it will get rid of the need for us to safe release objects. It'll just clean up automatically. So as long as you use the object right. So now we can come back to the render context. I'm going to create a Microsoft WRL COM pointer ID3D11 device context D3D, MD3D11 device context 3D11 device D3D11 device. And I think what we're going to need, so I know I'm going to have to render to a render target, but I'm thinking I may just separate those things. And I may make the render context like some global, I may make it globally accessible, if you will. So the way I'm going to do this, by the way, also we don't care if it copies or moves because the smart pointers here will handle all that for us. So we don't need constructors or anything for this. This is another good reason to use com pointer like this because it handles it. If you copy, you have to pay for the copy, right? Of course, we could disable copies, but then stuff gets kind of weird. But for now, I'm going to do I think I just want to do get D3D11 render context. And we can export and inline this. And now we just basically have this neat little factory function to get the actual render context. So here we'll just create a unique pointer of D3D11 render context. And just make it static. And we set it equal, or just do std make unique D11 render context. Simply return the render context like this. Oh, and it's asking for a regular pointer, so .get. And I'm thinking, fuck it, we do a reference. Right? Like, I mean, why do you need anything other than this reference here? I'm gonna use pointers though. I'm gonna change this up. And the only reason I'm gonna use pointers is because it is very clear what's happening. Okay, so now that's done. Now we just need a simple getter. So ID 3D11 device, get D3D11 device. And it's just a smart pointer. And we're going to inline these. Get D3D11 device context. So this is going to be initialization of Direct3D11. So we'll come back to where is my WinMain? There it is. And now I just want to make sure that everything is loaded up correctly. So we'll just do get the render context like this, auto context. And now this is a pointer. Okay, so now we can come here and we can check, but there's going to be something else that's going on, and this is where we need to link our libraries. So all configurations, all platforms, go to the linker. We're going to go to input, additional dependencies. We're going to change this up. We're going to do d3d11.lib, dxgi.lib, and while we're at it, d2d1.lib, and dwight.lib, because we're going to need all of these. Okay, and now we're going to run this, and hopefully there's no compile errors. Okay, so now we have a context, and of course both of those are null because we didn't do anything. So close, close, done. Okay, and now we're going to come back to our render context, and we're going to create D3D11 devices. Okay, and then here we're just going to create the Direct3D11 devices. And this is actually fairly easy. So all we have to do, D3D feature level, zero it out, HR equals D3D11, create device. We're going to use the default adapter. We don't need anything sophisticated. We're going to guarantee that it's hardware. We're not using a software adapter. Our flags for right now, 11 underscore create BGRA support that allows Direct 2D. The feature level, null pointer, 0, D3D11 SDK version. We want the address of MD3D device, the address of our feature level, and the address of MD3D11 device context, like this. Now the first thing obviously is if failed HR, then we're going to throw a system error, and we're going to statically cast that to an int. So we're going to do this. Then if the feature level is less than D3D underscore feature level 11, so if we're not at least direct 3D 11, then we're going to throw a runtime error. Failed to create a D3D 11 device, or better yet, we could say D3D feature level 11 is not supported on this system. And this way the error message is pretty clear in the exception. So now we're going to run this. We should still have the breakpoint, and now we should see our device and our device context. The pointers are now set. So now we can use these things to start rendering. However, we don't have a render target. We don't have anything else like that. So all that is going to be put into the render context. Also Direct 2D and all that kind of stuff. But for now, we're going to leave it at this with this exact code. So networking is pretty much done. We'll have to get over some of the higher level stuff later. But for now, networking's done. We have a simple way to create very simple views or windows, and we now have a Direct 3D 11 render context that we can start adding stuff to, and then create an entire graphics class to create things like squares and rectangles or buttons or just whatever we wanted. So anyway, sorry to make this video short and I didn't go over a whole lot. I do apologize. I tried to be as simple and plain as possible. And again, I'm sorry for the delay. It's just I've been really, really busy with work and I can't physically afford to skip work to make videos. But I am planning on still releasing these at least once a week. Unless work gets hectic, then there may be a couple weeks delay in between videos. But we're probably 35 40 videos away from even getting this application done, just to kind of give you guys a heads up on the timeline here. So maybe 6 months to a year. So just stay tuned, watch as I develop the app, and again, everything will be available for free. That would include the code and the binaries for Windows if you want to get onto your friends' computers and help them. This is just something I'm making just for the hell of it, really. But I'm getting this down to as low level as possible using primarily C APIs. There's going to be a couple libraries that I use, DirectX Texture or DirectX Toolkit. These two things I am not reinventing simply because we will be here for like 1,000 videos, and I just don't feel like reinventing the wheel when these things are perfectly fine for my use case. They may not be fine for your use case. If you're making a high performance game engine, DirectX Toolkit is not for you. Like you're not. There's no real threading ability in DirectX Toolkit. But for simple threaded applications or even a multi-threaded application, if all the Direct 3D stuff is happening on a separate thread, DirectX Toolkit's fine until you get into input. And we all know input's not fun. So Anyway, y'all take care. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and y'all have a good one.